In arguably the best battle between the SEC and the Big Ten that doesn't include the college football playoff, 10 wins are on the line. So who comes out on top and gets a bucket of Cheez-Its dumped on their head in the Cheez-Its Citrus Bowl between South Carolina and Illinois? Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, breaking down everything we will see in Orlando, Florida at Camping World Stadium come Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. Dang it.
Christmas Day.
Dang it. 3, 2, 1. In arguably the best battle between the SEC and the Big Ten that doesn't include the college football playoff, 10 wins are on the line. So who comes out on top and gets a bucket of Cheez-Its dumped on their head? South Carolina or Illinois? Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, breaking down everything we'll see in Orlando on New Year's Eve as the Gamecocks play host to the Fighting Illini. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification down below, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we're talking all things SEC, talking all things college football. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, the link in the description. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, link in the description. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson, link in the description. And check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. I promise you, the link is in the description. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. The holiday season is right around the corner, and what better gift to give someone in your life than a RHOBACK fleece, pullover, hoodie, pair of pants. We all could use a pair of pants these days, and do so by going to RHOBACK.com. Using the promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. The gift that keeps on giving from us here at SEC Unfiltered. RHOBACK.com, promo code SECU, 20% off. Tell your family that the fine folks at SEC Unfiltered are giving back to you this holiday season. Dave, 10 wins are on the line between the War Chickens and the Fighting Brett Bielemas. And imagine being able to say that at the start of the year, that Illinois is right back in the conversation of being a dark horse in the Big Ten, that South Carolina can use this as momentum to build toward 2025, that Shane Beamer and Brett Bielema are the two coaches that are trying to get to double-digit victories and turn their programs around for the better. And also, we get the Cheez-It Bowl, which is the best bowl ever because you woke up feeling the cheesiest because you got Lenore Sellers and Luke Altmaier repping their teams and repping the Cheez-Its, and it's the best snack out there. And also, just you get two teams in a great matchup, and we get to also have bragging rights. Who's better, the SEC or the Big Ten? Because you're not going to see a lot of opt-outs on either side in this game.
No, I think this is one of the better overall, where the motivation will be there for both teams. You mentioned both going for double-digit win season to get to that 10-3 record. Certainly a top 10 finish for both teams, most likely, if they were to pull this one, especially for Illinois moving up to potentially 15th here. But no, I mean, you got to be fired up here. We got a lot of SEC connections here. Former coach Brett Bielema has been in the SEC. SEC fans will be familiar with back in his time at Arkansas. Luke Altmaier has been at Ole Miss before. He's a Starkville, Mississippi native. Dad was a trainer, the head trainer at Mississippi State football. Obviously, South Carolina, we know about them. We had new OC Mike Shula coming in. He's had an SEC top 4. He's been on staff all year with South Carolina, previous Alabama head coach. There's a lot of ties here, a lot of motivation. I think that's why South Carolina got picked in this game because, again, I think South Carolina, out of those 9-3 kind of paired teams in the SEC, is coming in with the most momentum. They'll travel the best of this because they're the most fired up to be in this one. Like we mentioned on all these videos we've done, all these previews, bowl predictions, Bear, outside of the CFP, motivation matters. I think both teams got a ton of motivation coming into this game, not only to go visit the happiest place on earth in Disney that they'll get to go do, but like you mentioned heading into the show, get to that 10th win. That'd be key. That'd be big for both teams.
Camping World Stadium kickoff at 2 p.m. Central Time, New Year's Eve. South Carolina, a 9.5-point favorite. Dave, this is one of the hottest teams in college football. Winners of 6 straight. Dominant victories over Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, Clemson to close out the year. Back and forth, but a victory over Mizzou. Here's what's really interesting, though. On the opposing side, Illinois won its last 3 games. They averaged 38 points per contest because they scored 38 points in every single matchup. And this is, again, a team that is built defensively, has some great Sunday players that are going to eventually find their way onto NFL rosters. And they have a quarterback that just announced that he's coming back next year. We talk about the momentum, winning a bowl game. It's more than just 10 wins. It's more than just saying that we have bragging rights over a conference that loves to say that they're just as good as us when we both know that they're not. What it is it makes the workout sweeter in the offseason. It makes fall camp that much more dynamic. It makes the transfer portal that much more potent. And I really do look at a team like South Carolina and I look at a team like Illinois. A win in this could really benefit you when it comes to bringing in the right personnel in the offseason. A win in this whenever you have players still looking to join another team. Because remember, Dave, after you lose your bowl game in the playoff, you have an opportunity for the next 5 days to enter the portal. So there's a lot of kids that currently aren't maybe thinking about entering the portal because their sights are set on going and winning a playoff game that might look at an Illinois and go, I can be an Illini. I can be an immediate upgrade over what they have at offensive tackle. I can be an immediate upgrade over what they have at corner. And the same thing goes for South Carolina. I can be an enforcer and a starter day one at linebacker. I can make a big-time play at the defensive tackle spot. If you give me an opportunity, I'm going to come on in and I'm going to deliver.
No, absolutely. Plenty of, like you said, momentum to take into the offseason, especially with the Norris Sellers. He goes have a big game that could go attract some other top receivers. We've talked about it. South Carolina definitely needs a true number one wide receiver. I think Nick Harbor could obviously turn into that. It's just the mentality. Can he take on that, put away a little bit some of the track and field type mindset and become just a full-time football player? Has all the ability in the world to be number one. But again, to my point, if the Norris Sellers can have a big game again, that could attract potentially some other big name wide receivers across the league. And like I mentioned, I'm kind of fired up to see what Mike Shula does in his first legit game plan now that Dow Loggins has moved on to App State. Again, do we throw in Robbie Ashford in some packages here? I'm just talking about the quarterback room in general here. I don't know if you do that. I just overall, there's a lot to kind of this whole, because Illinois has been pretty solid on defense, I believe, all year. So like I think this game will come down to turnovers. Can Illinois finish plays? Again, we've seen some designs defensively against South Carolina where they've been there in the backfield and they just couldn't finish and to get Lenore Sellers down on the ground. But again, that's a compliment to Lenore Sellers, his natural strength that he plays with. I'm just pretty fired up across the board here from this matchup.
Now, we already know that Kyle Kennard is going to go to the NFL draft after this. I think it was announced that he's also not playing in this game. I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to look that up real fast. Somebody who did announce that he wasn't playing in this game is Illinois' leading receiver, Pat Bryant. Made it clear that he is not going to be going down to Orlando. He's going to be preparing for his upcoming NFL draft. This was the leading receiver, and it was in more categories than one. Receiving yards, yards after catch, average yards per play, touchdowns. Combined, 6 other guys had 11 scores. Pat Bryant had 10. So when you look at this, this may end up benefiting whoever is supposed to be lining up against the number one the number one wide receiver, because Zachary Franklin, the former breakout player for UTSA that last year went over to Ole Miss and didn't really play, he's going to have a big time role. And you're going to have to also prepare for Luke Altmaier's legs. So in this matchup, this could be a really big difference for Illinois' offense compared to what you have with South Carolina's offense, because South Carolina is not going to have that many opt-outs when it comes offensively, and they're going to have some weapons that are looking to either bolster their draft stock or build going off in the next season.
And we get to see Dylan Stewart kind of take on that primary number one pass rush role again, because most teams kind of focus in on Kyle Kennard. Yeah, I looked it up too, Baron. I'm sure you saw it. He's not playing in this game. So now Illinois' sole focus will just be on, from a pass rushing standpoint, for the most part, obviously the interior guys for South Carolina too, Tonka Hemingway, Boogie Huntley, Jackson, all those guys do a phenomenal job rushing the passer on the interior. But on the outside, it'll be Dylan Stewart, true freshman's first time to kind of be the guy. Let's see how he handles it. Sometimes the frustration of you getting doubled can lead to you not playing your best. Well, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Let's just see, because that's what's going to happen a lot next year, at least at the beginning of the year. I think teams are just going to be so focused on him. We'll see. I think that'll be something he could potentially miss next year, but he's going to get to see here very soon how Illinois attacks him offensively.
Lenore Sellers, I think, could have a really big game in this. And the same goes for Rocket Sanders. The same goes for Juju McDowell. The same goes for Oscar Attaway if he wants to get involved. Because this is an Illinois team that currently ranks 78th against the run. They are allowing 149.92 yards per play, 4.41 yards per rush attempt. Here's really the only selling point. They've allowed only 11 touchdowns, and I believe 7 of them have come inside the red zone. So the explosive runs, the big breakaway plays, you're not going to get used to seeing. But if you can just utilize the clock, and this will be really big, I think, for Mike Shula, because he gets to figure out what else do we need to add in the portal. Do we need to go bring in that running back? They're already listed to be bringing in Justice Haynes at the time of this recording, 12:30 Central Time on December 17th. They haven't landed Justice Haynes. They haven't landed anybody in the portal at running back. But they can kind of figure out, we feel really good about this offensive identity moving forward. We feel really good about some players that we could bring in. And also, we figure out the tight end position is potent to our success. The run game has got to be a backbone, and we need to have a 1-2 combination. And it really worked for us when we were in Carolina with Cam Newton and we had D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart. And the same thing goes for having a Greg Olsen tight end. So the rushing attack in this game against the front seven of the Illini may actually end up having a good direction on what South Carolina needs to bring in the portal and what they have to work on for this offense to be humming quickly going into 2025.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, you have all these older running backs there, so you're not really going to get the test to get any real run on any of your young cats, I feel like. Then, like you mentioned, I don't think they have any opt-outs really from a total looking towards next year standpoint. A lot of the most of the defense are a lot of older dudes outside of Judge Collier, Jalen Kilgore, the sophomores. But a lot of the other guys are older guys. In a way, you'd almost – in today's bowl game set, again, obviously you want to win the football game, especially when you're in a situation like South Carolina to get to double-digit win season. Or get to a double-digit win season, you'd like to see maybe – again, you don't ever want to see the opt-outs again, but you'd like to see some of your young cats get a little bit more run just to see potentially what you got on defense because you're replacing a lot next year on defense. I'll be interested to see how Clayton White handles that. But, again, go win the game. The momentum's more important right now. You got all spring. And, again, you don't know how many of your young guys are going to be there, but you're just looking at the depth chart here. South Carolina's got a very veteran group, and we've seen that all year. It's why it has been one of the best defenses in college football. And I mean, this isn't just a defense that is just stopping people. I mean, they're creating their own points, as we saw against Oklahoma at times.
Top 15 in total defense, top 13 in scoring defense. They're allowing 17.8 points per game and top 10 in run defense. They have been phenomenal in that front, which I think is going to benefit them a lot by slowing down Luke Altmaier. And the thing is that they're going up against a mobile quarterback in practice every single day. I truly believe throughout the game prep, Robbie Ashford is going to be utilized in a Luke Altmaier-esque role when going up against the first-team defense in the practice. They're going to make sure that they prepare for his mobility, for him to do some dink and dunk passes, and keep the momentum moving in the right direction. Dave, when you and I do previews together, we always pick one player to watch. I'll go first. I really want to see Mazeo Bennett step on up. And I feel like the reason why is because Nick Harbor has that vertical speed. We talk about him as a creative player on EA College Football 25. He's going to have a role next year. What is that role? Is it going to be being the number one receiver? Is it going to be being the go-to guy from 18 yards out? Is this going to be running a fly pattern? So be it. But I feel like Mazeo Bennett offers me a little bit more value. I think that he can be what Juice Walls was expected to be if he came back last year. I believe he can be what you saw in 2022 when you had him and Xavier Legette and they finished with 8 wins in the regular season. That's what I'm hoping for Mazeo Bennett. You get to go up against a very, I would say, solid, but not over elite, not underrated Illinois secondary. If you can create the windows of opportunities for you to strike, it gives you now 2 weapons that you have a lot of faith in, and maybe it changes your trajectory on what you're looking for in the transfer portal at wide receiver. Maybe instead of spending $1 million on one pass catcher, you go spend $225,000 on 2 pass catchers for depth purposes. So I think Mazeo Bennett needs to have a really big game in this matchup.
No, I'm going to go here, Barry. I'm going to. We just talked about it because I want to see how he operates when he's the solo dolo, just edge rusher right now and doesn't have that. I'm going to go Dylan Stewart again. I think he'll have a fine game, but again, if you're Clayton White, if you're Travarian Robertson, you may, hey, Dylan, this is what we're paying you for. This is why you're coming back to South Carolina. This is what you're going to see a lot next year. I fully anticipate Illinois' entire protection plan to go be game plan around Dylan Stewart, whether that's slide protection, them helping doubles, bringing a tight end to chip, running back to chip. You're going to have to get used to this, buddy. And I know you're young, and it's understandable. You can easily get frustrated. It's going to make you not allow to play your assignment, your run gap, if you get frustrated like that. How you handle this will be key. And let's be honest, this isn't a great Illinois offensive line. They've given up their fair share of sacks. Looking at it right now, they're 99th in sacks allowed this year. Giving up 31. So there's going to be some plays there, but I think it may be from some other guys, and that's fine. I mean, that's fine. That's winning. Dylan, if you're bringing players away and it's helping other guys, that's fine. I think just at times a freshman may struggle to realize that. I just want to see how his body language, how he participates in this game, because it's going to be different than any other game he's played against all year. Because let's be honest, when we talked about Kyle Kennard was the most valuable defensive player in the league this year, because not only did he help himself, he was making plays, he was helping all the other defensive linemen around him because other people had a game plan around him. So, and that's kind of the role Dylan Stewart's going to have to take next year. So I'll be interested to see how he gravitates to being that more of a team role. And he is a team guy from following his recruitment. So I'm looking forward to that. So Dylan Stewart for me.
Dave, let's log in some predictions. Kickoff at 2 p.m. 9.5-point spread in favor of the War Chickens. I'll let you go first. Who gets a 10-win season to close out 2024 and enter 2025 with the vibes rolling?
Yeah, outside of the playoff, the 3 playoff teams, obviously Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas. I think South Carolina is that 4th team and has the most motivation to play for in bowl season, just ahead of Missouri. So getting that 10th win, finishing with 7 straight wins to finish off the season would be a phenomenal year for Shane Beamer. If it wasn't for Clark Lee winning 6 games at Vanderbilt, Shane Beamer would be the 2024 SEC Coach of the Year. I think this game could be pretty close at half. I could see it being like a 1-score game at half either way. But I think South Carolina in the second half pulls away here. Again, I think the offense is just going to be too much. I trust the defense. I don't think Luke Altmaier does too much on the ground. Because like you said, I think they got enough pride, some older guys that want to finish their career off at South Carolina well, finish off with a win. I think South Carolina gets out of here with something like I'll say something like a 20-14 win here, 2-touchdown win here for the Gamecocks as they head on to 10 wins, head into the offseason with a lot of momentum, especially offensively, and just got to go shore up a lot of those missing or those key pieces that are going to be leaving on defense.
South Carolina has all the mojo. South Carolina has all the momentum. More importantly, you look at this Illinois team, they rank 88th in total offense. They rank 86th in rushing. They rank 77th in passing. They're without their star wide receiver. And they won. I mean, there were 6 games that were decided by 1 possession or fewer. 5 in wins, 1 in a loss. They're a team that got very lucky that they were playing a physical brand of football headlined by Brett Bielema that carried momentum week in and week out. They were able to score 38 points in their last 3 games apiece, but still, there was a lot of things that kind of benefited their way. They played lesser competition in the Big Ten compared to facing off against the juggernauts. And when they did face off against Oregon, when they did face off against Penn State, they lost both games and they lost with really no second glance. Double-digit losses in both instances. I believe one was at home and one was on the road, or both were on the road. Regardless, for South Carolina, a win in this game proves that not only did you beat the ACC champs, you held your own against an Alabama team that many believed was good enough to win a national title underneath a brand new head coach. The only game that you looked awful in was the Ole Miss matchup, but still the fact that you were able to even keep it interesting down the stretch when morale was down and out of the count for a lot of people speaks volume of this team. There's a no-quit mentality underneath Shane Beamer. And Shane Beamer was my coach of the year. I'll die in that take. When you're able to get this team to rally after an egregious penalty against Kyle Kennard in the LSU game, you lose momentum after you lose to Ole Miss. Yet here you are finding a way to fight back. That's been their MO all year. We're down, but we're not out. We don't care who believes in us. We know that we're good. And I think the vibes are trending upward in Cola for the long term. I believe this is a team that is going to be a force in the 2025 season, regardless of who they bring in. I think they have the right mojo. They have the right DNA. And they're going to show you why they belonged in the college football playoff this year, and certainly why they should be a force the way Ole Miss was last year going into next year. I think this is a blowout. I think that because of when you look at this Illinois offense, they have 5 guys that have rushed for over 200 yards. Nobody is averaging more than 6.1 yards per play, and that's Aiden Lowry. Everyone else is averaging roughly around 2.8 to 3.8. They're going to slow them down. I don't think you're going to see the pass go off. I think this is a game where you watch as Shane Beamer clucks his way to 10 wins. He gets the Cheez-It stumps on him, and he says something random in the postgame that becomes clipped around the world. This, to me, is the second best game in all of the bowl matchups going into 2024. I think it delivers on all ends for the War Chickens. Gamecocks, 35. Illinois, I'm going to go 14. This is a dominant win to end the season. Put yourself in good mojo. And more importantly, carry that into offseason workouts and be prepared to strike when it comes to next season. They're a force to be reckoned with in the SEC. I think they start to prove that right before we get into 2025.
Yeah. No, again, like I said, I think South Carolina's got the most momentum or most reason to play out of anybody outside the playoff teams.
So, who do you guys have winning? Make sure that you comment down below, like, review, follow us on the social media channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mark 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. Spurs up, War Chickens unite. Peace.